Bitcoin is a self-correcting monetary system, and fiat isn't, and gold isn't, and commodity money isn't. Bitcoin is the apex property, and it's the highest form of property rights. It really is. It's the only thing you can take with you to the grave. You know, and I joked about it. You know, I was online going back and forth with Peter Schiff the other day. You know, and he's saying, why would anybody ever want to have something for 100 years? You'll all be dead by then. And I said, well, you can take it with you to the grave. You know, and he's like, well, you can take gold to the grave. And I posted an article on ancient Egyptian burial tombs. And if you go back and you do just even a few seconds of history and do a few minutes of research, you know that for the last 5,000 years, people have been trying to figure out how to bury gold with them. They've all failed.
Right.
2,500 years ago, the Egyptians created pyramids and hid in tombs. They still had the tomb robbers. People would break into the pyramids. And the only reason that the King Tut had a treasure that lasted into the 20th century was because it was buried by a sandstorm and people didn't know it existed. His tomb, it was lost. But every other protected tomb with a treasure in it was raided and looted. And if you pause and think about it a bit, and if you're really serious and thoughtful, what you realize is there is no form of property that you can have custody of while you're alive and after you're dead. And there is no form of property that respects your wishes after you're dead, other than Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, and the significance of that is not you need the money when you're dead. That's not the point. The point is much deeper than that. The point is, should you wish, you know, for something to carry on, if you want a park watered for 100 years after your death, you have a method to ensure that takes place. You know, and if I hold a gun to your head and I say, give me all your property or I will shoot you, with all other forms of property, if you say no, I shoot you and I get it anyway. So the game theory says I should just go ahead and kill you and take your property. But with Bitcoin, the game theory says if I shoot you, I get none of it because you go to the grave with your keys. So with Bitcoin, the game theory says I should ask for half. The control function is, if we come back to our last set of discussions, right? Like, what is the critical definition of ideal money? Shared, immutable, correct ledger. So what is Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is an adaptive control system and it's targeting correct.
Right, yeah.
It's self-correcting. It's a self-correcting monetary system. For example, how does gold go off the rails? Well, I started with 21 million gold coins and then someone, you know, sacked the Inca Empire and brought back 10 million more. Now I've got 31 million gold coins. Well, where's the self-correcting part? I don't want 31 million. I want 21 million. I just diluted the value of the civilization by 30%. It's not self-correcting.
Yeah.
Someone made 2% more gold. It's not so, okay, well, if you have 2% error, you know, every year in a thermostat, well, the thermostat you grew up in with a kid is going to fry you by the time you're 47. What happens if you add 2 degrees a year to a thermostat? Well, it's going to be 182 degrees by the time you retire. Right? Your books are going to burn at Fahrenheit 451. Just give it a few years. You can't tolerate 2% drift, much less 7% drift. All of these adaptive control systems, like, you know, the steam engine is based on negative feedback, thermostats, you know, even longitude. John Harrison, when he invented longitude, we talked about it. How do you find longitude in the ocean? You need 2 clocks. how do I actually get the two clocks to keep time when you have heat that's compressing and expanding the material in the clock? The answer is I have to sandwich in or wedge 3 different layers, and one layer has to contract as the other expands, so they offset so that you eliminate the bias. You can't afford to have any flex.
Right.
Like you need perfect, like, how do I get a watch to run true? I can't have it lose 2 seconds a day or 5 seconds a day. I need perfect timing.
Yes, yes.
Otherwise, you're going to miss, by 100 meters.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so all of engineering is all about error correction.
Yes.
And adaptive control systems. And so Bitcoin is a self-correcting monetary system, and fiat isn't, and gold isn't, and commodity money isn't. Bitcoin is cybernetic life.
Yeah.
When you play God, when you design, Satoshi created life, right? There's a genetic code to it. And then you decide, are you going to release it into your aquarium? Or are you going to release it into the ocean?
Right. Yeah.
Is it going to be a barnyard animal? Is it a domesticated pet? Is it a zoo creature? Or did we release it into the wild? And Bitcoin was cybernetic life released into the wild because proof of work is inherently permissionless, which means that it was meant to live in all environments and to go everywhere, and you can't keep it caged.
Right.
Right? To the extent you try to keep it caged, then you lose control of it. There are other forms of cybernetic life that have been designed not to go in the wild, like a proof of stake system.
Yeah.
Right. A proof of stake is more like a barnyard animal or a zoo creature. You've designed a domesticated pet, which, is kind of toothless.
Yeah.
And maybe it's got pretty feathers, but it was never meant to live in the jungle. Right. It's like that would be no fair. It would be no fair to like that.
Yeah.
Let that loose. It was kind of a domesticated creature.